where everything is disrupted and transformation is all over the place, helping people to come back to their own essence, really try to be there and don't play any roles. And I played so many roles in my life. I pretended to be someone who I wasn't. Per minute, we're inhaling on average 15 to 20 times. Natural and healthy breathing would be 7 to 10 times only. It shows that we are breathing too fast, which means that we're just too fast in this world.
Your book, chapter 4,
Mhm.
is called in German, Wenn das Leben dich zwingt hinzusehen, which would translate into when life forces you to look at yourself.
My body was all the time actually screaming, but I didn't hear and I didn't look at what was screaming.
Trust to Disrupt, the podcast where visionary entrepreneurs, artists, creators, Web3 and crypto minds share visionary conversations and disruptive success stories. Hello and welcome to a new episode on the Trust to Disrupt podcast. We need future-ready leadership, sovereignty, and authenticity. That's what HR leaders claim, but also every founder and entrepreneur. But the question is, what does that actually look like? And all three of these words, they carry a lot of depth, and that gets to be explored. And so I'm super happy to have someone here who can absolutely do that. Welcome with me, Ben Achenbach, who is a fellow expert on authentic leadership and sovereignty, and who personally also has dared to dive very deep into himself to find answers that are then replicable and teachable to others. In brief and short, he's a leadership coach, a breathwork teacher, a keynote speaker, and now author of his new book, in German called Befreiung, and from what? Aus dem goldenen Käfig, so liberation or freeing yourself from the golden cage. And that speaks volumes in all directions. I'm curious to dive in a lot. So find all his details in the bio, and I'm just starting right into this. Very warm and joyful welcome to you, Ben.
Thank you so much, Judith. I'm super happy to be with you here in this beautiful room.
Amazing. I want to dive into that leadership topic directly. So, we got to meet each other at an event a couple of weeks ago, and I've also had the chance to read a couple of pages of the book here. So it's all around leadership, but it's also very personal. And what stood out to me is that leadership systems, it's under pressure, and that is not a statement that is new. But the question is now, what is different? And I saw on your website, there was one sentence I really loved. Some say something around leadership under pressure is not about a qualification issue, but it's a human issue. So why is that? And where does it serve then to dive into the human architecture?
Yeah. Well, a great question. First of all, yeah, I'm one of the types actually who need some time to answer questions, and I'm taking the time. What I learned throughout my life, and then I will also answer the question, is, and it's within the book as well, to connect to your own being, so-called also intuition, to find the right answers, right, to questions like yours, and also questions in life. And then now coming back to your question, so what I'm observing throughout my coachings and also throughout my business life and being a leader myself the last 20 years, being in different companies and observing different leaders, right? By the way, I'm super inspired, and I was super inspired by female leadership, if I can say so. Yeah. Why is that? Because, there's what I like is to combine the soft part of the human being and also kind of the so-called hard part, like more the facts with empathy and so on. So that is why I'm more or less really inspired by female leaders, and to the male guys, hopefully it's not disturbing you right now, but I'm also male, so it's fine. I think we can only learn, but while observing different leaders, especially in the current state of mind and situation with the disruption all over the place, we tend to be too fast. And what do I mean with it? It starts actually with our own being, whether we are conscious or not, whether we are in the presence right now. So if we talk, whether you really listen to what I'm saying, and I'm also reflecting while talking what I'm saying, And I was always super inspired by leaders who are in the current state of mind and in the current moment, like really leading from their presence. And now, really answering the question, I'm missing that. And what I'm doing is helping and supporting people in these leadership situations currently in Germany, really affect helping people to come back to their own essence. That's what I'm saying. Really try to be there and don't play any roles. And I played so many roles in my life. I pretended to be someone who I wasn't, but pretended to be. Where everything is disrupted and transformation is all over the place, which is, I acted like someone who I was not from my beginning when I was when I looked into this world and maybe also had my first breath.
Breath is a good word. We're going to focus on breathing and breath in a little moment. Thank you for sharing and also elaborating left and right, which is I love that. I love that because to me, it's an expression of how complex the human architecture, in fact, is, and that we get to appreciate that more, to allow that we don't have to come to some sort of conclusion within 5 seconds. Maybe there's more to explore. So what I'm hearing what you say is that while, humans have always been humans in an organization or in leadership, and there has always been change. But what I heard you say was the amount of pressure caused by change, that's the different factor now versus maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago. And is that what was the main driver of why the human aspect becomes more relevant now, or is there more to that?
There's always more to that, if we want to say so. It's the question where we lead our mind and ourselves while questioning what was questioned, right? But in this current point of time, what I really observe, not only within others, but also with myself, it's really a challenge to stay connected to yourself. And why is that? First of all, there's such an information overload if we don't reflect about it. So human beings are kind of bombarded with so many informations, and then take this super nice smartphone over here, and you take the MacBook or whatever device you have around you, and all these informations that could like bombard you, and you even realize, right? Then human take it for granted or just accept the status quo as it is. And that's a real challenge, I think. And if we just pause for a second and think about it, that it's really like this information overload that is happening. And then we come back to the leadership situation. Okay. So you're now a leader in a certain kind of company, potentially in Germany facing a lot of challenges, restructuring, turnarounds, transformations. And then you have your team that you want to lead. But where does leadership actually start? And leadership starts always with yourself. And so it's super important that you know how to lead yourself and you know who you are from your essence. Because then if you really know who you are, you potentially can inspire with the values that are really with you, and you don't play kind of certain values that potentially others want you to play. It's like being yourself, and that's so super important. But face the fact, 95% of human beings in general are unconscious, and only 5% conscious. Okay, it depends on the studies that we look at, but let's take that as a kind of fact. And then we are conditioned and we are socialized with all the things that we looked at in our past, and then we kind of act today. So it's super important that we try to find mechanisms to reflect potentially at the end of the day about what we did today, to reflect about it and potentially want see opportunities what we want to change by tomorrow. And then let me come to the fact of fastness in life. It's also a fact, like humans inhale 20,000 times, and I'm a breathwork teacher, so by the way, 20,000 times per day, 20,000 times without even realizing that we are inhaling that much. Why is that? Because per minute, we're inhaling on average 15 to 20 times. Natural and healthy breathing would be 7 to 10 times only. So what does that show? It shows that we are inhaling and breathing too fast. And while breathing too fast and inhaling too fast, we are activating the sympathicus. And the sympathicus is it activates the flight and fight modus. So let's reflect again. 95% of the time we're unconscious, and then we're inhaling too fast, which means that we're just too fast in this world. So there are like wise people who are saying, if you want to be fast, be slow. And there's so much wisdom in it. And you can, if you're now asking yourself, okay, well, interesting, well, let me check if that's also the point with me, and how can I change it? Now the question is, how can, if you want to change, not being stressed out all the time, could be, that you are, why don't you exhale just longer than you inhale? And then, if we would do it right now, I mean, if we want, we can
Do it.
yeah.
I love breathing. I
Do
love
we?
breathwork.
Yes. Shall we do it for a second?
Yeah,
Yeah.
guys, when you're watching or you're listening, take a pause consciously right now, especially if you're driving, maybe be careful. But if you're not driving, you're absolutely invited to join the exercise. Go ahead, Ben, lead us.
Yeah. Let's assume we have it's 12:44 right now. And half of the day is potentially already passed, maybe a quarter of the day. Okay. And we potentially are stressed out a bit. Let's close our eyes for a second. And now we inhale for 4 seconds with our nose. And we exhale 6 seconds. Inhale for 4 seconds. Exhaling 6 seconds. Last time. Inhaling 4 seconds. Exhaling. And now you can open your eyes again. Potentially you're feeling a difference right now. Maybe we are more present again. And especially we just within a minute activated our parasympathicus, which alters our nervous system in a positive way. It reduces the stress level. And that's super fine. I mean, guys, we are born with this super amazing strength that lies within us, which is our breath. It's super simple. But honestly, so now I'm 45, and I needed 44 years until last year to kind of find myself. Really,
I want to cut in here just slightly, because you shared so many golden nugget things here in the last minutes, including this beautiful exercise. So also for you guys listening, if you love that, you know, to go back to about minute 14 in the podcast, and you can just re-listen to that and do that exercise until you want to repeat it on your own. So that's always very helpful when you're starting out with these things. So that is just a hint for everyone listening. And then one question, by everything that you shared, I was inside of me, I was nodding all of the time, like, yes, 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 more truth, more truth. And a question popped up then. If I were now somebody being in such a leadership position, or maybe I'm the founder and I am that stressed out person, and I see all the things on my to-do list, and I kind of know where I want to go, and I feel that I'm so fast and I feel like I'm not able to catch up. So maybe I feel overwhelmed. And now I heard you say that maybe I am not who I am. How would I even figure out if I am who I am, or if there is some sort of a distorted version that I'm just thinking that I am? How can I figure out if I already am who I am, and if I know that? And maybe if I'm not, like, How would I go about that?
Many windows are popping up. Let me find a way to the potential first window. It's so funny. I mean, the monkey mind is also overwhelming us between life. That's what I mean with all the windows that are popping up. And then I learned to connect myself with my intuition, the in wisdom that is within us. And normally the intuition is a sensitive and not so super loud voice. It's rather really silently talking to us and giving us answers. So that as a side story or thought in this moment. So congratulations if you're at all asking you the question whether you are connected to yourself or not, right? And who you are and who you are not, and who you want to be and who you are, although you potentially don't want to be like that. So asking questions to yourself is already the beginning.
Good, good. Okay.
I I had so many questions to myself when last year I was not with my company anymore. The year before, so 2024, I went through another restructuring transformation and kind of also ended my story there. And then time was spent to myself. And while the last 10 years, I was already training myself in breathwork, and really I love it, and which helped me to also release energy and potentially not the roles that I wanted to play anymore. I still found myself back in the last year and lost myself the last year in this mentality, and potentially other leaders can connect to it, like this being always busy and being always productive and reaching for higher goals and being fast and always busy. So I was that still last year, although I healed a lot throughout the last 10 years. And then there was the thing that I started with psychedelic breathing, and I learned that now for 12 months, and that is what I'm also teaching other people, to really connect with your depths within you and to find your soul again. So I was on this journey to find my soul again. So what is the soul last year? And which is not directly answering your question, but I wanted to give this story before I answer the question. And now let's come to the question. So what could you do? Maybe. Congratulations again. We're asking this question. Okay. So repetition is always helpful to really ask what is important in your life, and yourself should be important. Asking who you are every moment, it's important. So what do you want to create? Which values do you want to define? And which values do you want to live? And then potentially start in the morning. So when you wake up, what you could do is what I'm also doing, check in with myself. So you wake up, and then I don't know what you're doing normally. I'm drinking 1 or 2 glasses of water with some lemon, and then I'm connecting to myself. What does that mean? So I close my eyes again, and I hold my heart and my stomach, and I just connect with myself. And I'm asking this funny question, which I needed to learn really. What do I want to feel? And what do I feel right now? Not what do I think. Thinking is happening anyway. It's starting right away. The monkey mind is on super fast. No. Ask yourself, how do you feel? And what you could do, not only do that in the moment, and then the answers that your body is giving you, and potentially your heart, listen to it. Maybe in the morning, it's asking you or challenging you to go out and see the sunlight, if there's sunlight, or do some stretching. Or no, I want a great cup of coffee. I want this coffee. Amazing. Or some water, or I want to chat, or I want to read the book, or I do want to do some running. Maybe to get you into an energy plus. I always say energy plus. Start the day as a morning miracle with the energy plus. So to connect yourself, with your body, and then with your mind also. And if you like that, you could do that maybe twice a day. So 5 to 1 as right now, you could check again with yourself. Like, how do I feel? And if you want to combine it with breathing, it's fine. So remember, we did the breath work like 10 minutes ago, and we just activated our prefrontal cortex, our parasympathicus, and thereby we altered our nervous system. Exhaling longer than inhaling, if you want to do. But do the check-in again, and maybe in the afternoon as well. So because I can imagine, I was a leader for many, many years. The calendar is fully booked. So where's the space for ourselves? Maybe if it feels like you can disrupt it right now. So let's assume we have Friday and you want to disrupt your week next week already because you can decide for it, because you can decide for it, right? Then find some space within your calendar for yourself. Why for myself? Well, because you're leading yourself, first of all, and then you lead other people, right? So, and then you can connect easier. But in these busy times, like do some check-ins, as I mentioned. And then maybe last thingy, which is coming to my mind. I like one exercise to reflect about your day. Imagine it was a museum where you collect moments and experiences. Okay, so let's assume we have this kind of life museum, and where we collect all these experiences, and good or bad, right? But then at the end of the day, we could ask ourselves 3 questions. What was your main learning? What was your hard moment? And what are you thankful for? It's a super nice exercise. And you can also do it with your children if you have children. Do it together, then you can connect. Why do I like it? Because it's kind of positive influenced. Although the experience can be super hard, like it could cause pain, reflect about it. What is the learning that you're learning from it? And kind of think it's positive in a way. And that helps, by the way, to have a potentially better sleep during the night then.
Thank you, Ben, for sharing that. What you've provided essentially over the last 10, 15 minutes is a full-on routine that everyone can plug and play in their day right away. Because that's one thing we have in common. When I share breathwork with people, then I always say it's the best thing we have because it's always available and it's always free. And you already know how to do it because it's an automatic thing that your nervous system does, a part of your nervous system. So that's great. But also I love all the additions that you gave, the ways that you can check in with yourself, to also take yourself from the mental plane down to the body and the emotional plane, which is super important. And I do a lot of these things in the morning as well. First of all, I drink water in the morning. I also scrape my tongue off of the stuff that the body toxin wise got rid of overnight. And then I go outside usually. Almost all year round. If I have the chance and I'm by an ocean, I run into the ocean. If I can't, I at least go out and stretch and move and see what feels good and dance. I put on some music. I essentially, every morning I do breath work at least 6-7 minutes. If I can, 30 minutes, depending on what I feel like I want or need or what I want to tap into. And I always connect to joy. Joy for me is something that is getting me into the vibration and the energy. From that, then I can just focus on what is relevant today. What do I get to do today? And then from then on, the day starts to flow. And then evening times, I can admit the human part of me sometimes forgets the evening part as well. But it's super helpful. So thank you for reminding us of that.
But let me ask you back. Sorry, I know we're in your podcast, but I'm asking that question back because it might be that one or the other listener is now interested also in your 6 to 7 minutes breathwork in the morning. What are you actually doing then? What kind
of different kinds of things? That one, the short one, that is really for the morning to wake the body up. That is not necessarily to dive very deep and explore your unconscious mind or your higher consciousness. That one is really just to energize your body, and it has I think 4 or 5 different breath rhythms. In through the nose, out through the nose, just to start with, very gentle, very slowly, those elements. But then it has the deeper ones. In the morning, you want to activate a little bit more, right? So you take in and out at the same length, in and out. And then it also has the ones where you go like super fast, where you push through your belly. where you activate. That's a little bit like a mini part of the breath of fire, if somebody knows that. So it has a nice mix to me of 3, 4, 5 different elements within 7 minutes that just really gives all of your body parts and the nervous system a chance to be fully present, get back into the body, and start the day with a higher level of oxygen in the body. So that is my main purpose in the morning.
Super sweet. Thanks for sharing.
Nice. I want to jump into your book, and something I really loved is how you started, or the whole chapter is chapter 4,
Mhm.
which is called in German, Wenn das Leben dich zwingt hinzusehen, which would translate into when life forces you to look at yourself and you can't avoid yourself any longer. And in that, you beautifully combine with examples what you just started to talk about, which is the physical body and body markers, physical markers, what can happen. You start with sharing how you used to blush a lot and how you felt shame around that, and how then you tried to figure out what the pattern behind it was to control it. And then somehow how it led you to discover breathwork. And I saw you worked with Wim Hof methods before you then came into psychedelic breathwork. So that means within a couple of pages, you beautifully wrapped the body in, the nervous system, emotions, and the physical markers that tell you something as a way to explore all of that, to find clarity and lead yourself in a different way. And as we've learned already from you, leading yourself in a better way is essential if you want to lead others. So can you dive a little bit more into these physical markers and how it ties to the nervous system and the emotions, and how your approach was to that? So how did you get there? What made life you look at? What did you have to look at?
Yes. So also looked into literature from Gabor Mate, who's an expert in trauma analyzation, and he's a doctor, and really inspired by his work, also for my own story. And so the question, where are your reactions coming from, what you're showing outside, right? So like, as you mentioned, blushing, for example, was in my analysis of myself then connected to a feeling that I actually not felt, so to say, feeling too controlled and not being who I am from my pure essence, if you want to say so. And it's interesting to look at all these dark things in yourself, right? And to find the light, to find the light. When did that all start to really search for it? Yeah, because my body was all the time actually screaming, but I didn't hear, and I didn't look at what was screaming.
Can you share an example
Yeah,
of how it was screaming, even though then you didn't know, for somebody else to maybe relate to that?
yeah,
What was one way?
exactly. Yeah, 100%. I wanted to do it actually. So it was, imagine my life from 2009 to 2014. I was general manager in our family company that my father built, of 3 restaurants. I was 27, and with 80 employees. And, I thought like, well, I'm a business a guy. I learned at a business school, and I was in a career with Metro Cash and Carry for a couple of years. Then with 27, I can do it with ease, like being a general manager. Well, that was not the fact. It was really hard. It was extremely hard, like 6, 7 days a week, working like hell. And the funny thing is, from day two on, my intuition, so what I explained before, like the inner voice, was silently talking to me, that is not what you want in life. This is really not why you are here. But I didn't at all listen to it, because, yeah, I wanted to please other people, and fulfill their expectations, especially the expectations of my father. To ask for love, that was the only way how I kind of received love, if I performed. And then I did that for 5 years with the inner voice always talking to me. And it was really, I was playing roles. That was really not me. Today, I can say from the bottom of my heart, I love to see the potential in people. And I love to help people grow in themselves and find their inner essence. That is what I really love. But within that job, during that time, it was really like super operational, and I forgot myself, who I was. Only firefighting and stressed out. And then in between the times, like 3 or 4 years, honestly, I was in 2 or 3 burnouts, 100%. Never diagnosed. I remember one situation where I couldn't even breathe anymore. And that means something, right? I was lost. I was lost in translation. It was horrible. And then that is what life is. So after 5 years, in 2014, we lost everything. The entire family company, the entire family business, and that meant like 10 different companies, including real estate and so on. I could say we were a wealthy family, really, really wealthy. But we lost everything because my father was arrested. He committed bribery, which he also confirmed then in the end. But that is a longer story. Let me find the essence in the story, okay? I didn't want to listen to my body. And I lost myself. And then life taught me another story. And within losing everything from the Wells perspective, I didn't free myself, but I got the help to free and got out of the golden cage, so to say. Yeah. And by then I started the journey finding the true Ben and looking for the essence with all the things I tried. I was 2 years later. It's also described in the chapter with a healer, and she helped me. It was interesting. I was just sitting on the couch, and she was in front of me. And I know you did, but from an energy perspective, it's hard to describe what happened. But she just went with her kind of state of mind and her soul and everything that she brings to life. I'm still thankful for her because it was really like the outbreak. She went through my body and kind of helped me to heal for the first time, and I could release all the energies. And then when I came back to the flat, and my wife saw me how I changed, she realized and she asked, "What happened to you?" And I said, "Well, I had this beautiful session, and I can't explain you everything, but it was super nice." I can see it, yeah. So that was kind of the first body mind experience from another perspective, which I experimented. And yeah, and then meanwhile also doing the breath work, and I like to do ice bath as well as cold showering, which flushes your blood, and you can do a lot of interesting things. And maybe the message is just check in with yourself always, like try it out and see what it affects and whether it helps you in a way in the situation that you are in.
Thank you for sharing all of that. We're like slowly coming towards the end of the episode, and well, you can start checking in with yourselves, or if what Ben has shared, these beautiful examples and the wisdom in it, if that speaks to you, you can just reach out to him and see maybe he is the person to support you on your journey or bring something into your organization in a different vibration and frequency and more clarity. Because I know you also beautifully bridge that which is in the individual person into an organizational structure, which is super valuable. And then I have one last question, but before I ask that, can you share for people, where do they go to find your book?
So if you type in Google my name, you would already kind of find the Amazon link, or you can find it Thalia. So different opportunities. Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. So guys, Google Ben Achenbach, and then you get to the book in German,
Exactly.
Befreiung. Nice color as well. And lots. What I loved about the book is it's not like a textbook in the sense of giving fact-based information, but it's a beautiful mix of story sharing with wisdom, with some science and explanations, and also with invitations for some exercises for yourself for reflection, just like Ben gave you previous in the episode here, suggestions and impulses on how you get to reflect on yourself on that journey to leading yourself better, understanding who you are, and by that leading those around you in a different way. And what I got curious about, you named this breaking out or breaking free from the golden cage, and obviously the golden cage itself can be different things. So from your experience, what has been the bigger cage? Was that your inner landscape, or was that your entrepreneurial family situation that you grew up in? What would you say?
Both is connected and correlated, for sure. Great question. I'd say from my intuition, it's the inner cage. All the conditioning, and what directly comes to my mind is one belief I always carried myself until last year, which I got to remember because it was said to me a lot when I was young. Like you shouldn't be weak and don't even think about crying. Like you need to be always strong, which is I really like to be strong. I love it. It also gives you can bring you to high performance and amazing, right? But I also like to be weak sometimes and cry. It's nice, it's healthy, it's okay. And even Mel can do it. Yes, we can. We
I
can do it.
appreciate you so much for being a man speaking about it and embodying that, because I feel we and the world, we need to see that more, that this is just a part of normal being who we are.
In the end, does it matter which gender we are? Hey, come on. We are humans on this beautiful planet. And let's all give it a go to try and make it a better place. I mean, we have a responsibility here. And that's what I like to challenge myself. I really like to, and we should challenge ourselves. Don't stay in the comfort zone. And honestly speaking, 44 years until I kind of realized that emotions are important. And being able to really connect to my emotions and feel them, because they were really like 95% of the time being unconscious, I wasn't connected and I couldn't feel my emotions. That's sad. But you can.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can.
I can testify on that, because even being a woman, I put that in quotes now, that gender thing, but I know from my own personal story that I had a very, very limited access to feeling anything for the majority of my life. And the only emotions I was aware of and I could actually feel were around anger, and then fun, not joy, but really the punctual dopamine driven fun in a moment. And then the pendulum might have been swinging back just to anger. So that was the bandwidth of emotions I was aware of, and I could perceive nothing else. And that was eye-opening when I understood and learned, oh, there's more. And oh, how do I access that? How do I get back to, because it's never gone, it's all there. It's just a matter of access. So I love that you had that experience, but also that you share now and that you teach other people, because it is vital. That's the human part of us, and that also that what makes us being distinguishable from any AI.
100%. And maybe some educational facts which might be interesting. I didn't know it until last year. So we store all our emotions here in the limbische System. How do you say in English?
That limbic system.
Limbic.
Exactly the same word.
Limbic system. Yeah, exactly. Where our amygdala lies. And all our emotions are sitting there. But how do you get to all the emotions that potentially weren't secure while you were feeling them when you, for example, were young, and they were not secure and safe to really feel them, right? You potentially won't remember until you realize. And what helped me, for example, a lot, you can do sessions with therapists. That's one thing, but you can also do breath work. And within 75 to 90 minutes breathing, you shift your mental state from a now we are in beta level to really deeper level. And then you can activate your limbic system and release emotions that were not safe, if that makes sense. Yeah. And that helped me a lot because it released a lot of emotions. And then I was crying, like I couldn't stop, but it was so beautiful in the end. So that is, yeah, maybe some side story. And it's not easy. It was really not easy, and it's still also not easy, but sometimes it's easy.
And it's worth doing it.
Yeah.
It's worth doing it.
It's worth doing it.
Because it's sustainable. It's sustainable shifts, right? You only get
Yes.
to go through the discomfort once every discomfort, but then, you know, the result is sustainable over a long time. And that is what I always really appreciate about these approaches. And I used a lot of different breathwork techniques as well to work through trauma. You can do all kinds of different things with breathwork. It's really, really beautiful. But for those who have never done that, what Ben shared in the beginning of the podcast is a beautiful start to just start breathing again and feel that and acknowledge that. Amazing. I think we could talk for hours and hours and hours. So I have 3 really quick questions at the end of each episode to close that, if that's fine. Just whatever the first impulse is. And the first one is, the name here is Trust to Disrupt. What does that mean to you?
Our systems need disruption, and being part of the good force to disrupt what needs to be disrupted and trust the process.
Nice. Any name that spontaneously pops up, someone else you want to listen to on this podcast here as well?
Who should be on this podcast here? I would invite Anna Lüling. She's a head coach from John Strelecki, Kaffee am Rand der Welt, and it would be nice to have her here. Yeah, so you can talk about many beautiful things. Yeah, especially the Big Five for Life. It's an interesting
that's awesome
method.
Okay, thank you. Note taken. Maybe we can create that connection.
Sure.
And the last one is, anything else you want to share as a tip? Somebody who wants to start that journey, who feels now inspired, what is a good starting point beyond the breathing that you shared and asking yourself questions? Is there anything else that you want to share that maybe has helped you or that you saw with clients that works well?
Trust the silence. Give it some space. Ask why you're here. And potentially connect to the answer of my oldest daughter. She gave me 4 years ago when she was 6, when I asked her why we are here. And she beautifully said, Dad, maybe because we want to share love.
I want to let that just stand here as a closing word. That is beautiful. Kids are so wise. Thank you, Ben, for taking the time. Thank you for being on here. We have all your details in the show notes here and in the description of the episode. Go find his book, go find the website. And if that's inspiring to you, maybe you want to reach out and see if you guys can work together. Thank